The morning sun glared down at Hassan Mahmud, and he glared right back. Normally he thanked Allah for sunshine, but where he lived, the sun did its job properly. Not like here in Germany, where despite the cloudless sky, the temperature was barely high enough to melt the icicles hanging from the snow-topped buildings all around him. Hassan loathed Munich, especially this time of year. It was an explosion of red and green and gold, of manger scenes and Santa Clauses, and infidels worshipping their pagan gods, Father, Son, and Spirit. Even a fool could count the three gods of Christianity, heretics, all of them, flocking to the market to pick among cheap knickknacks to decorate their homes and hang on their trees. Spend, spend, spend. Proving what they truly loved. It would be one thing if they believed in something, but Hassan had seen enough of so-called faith to know those in the West worshipped money far more than they worshipped their crucified Jesus. Christians were almost as bad as false Muslims, who gave lip service while enjoying their evil. They would all pay. He could almost see it, almost hear the screams. He only wished he could be here when it happened, but he'd be gone by then, on his way back to Iraq before anybody could stop him. None of it would happen if he failed this morning's mission. Hassan would never have guessed he'd be following clues like some greedy treasure hunter. Most people believed that Saddam Hussein's stash of munitions had been destroyed, or had never existed in the first place. But Hassan knew they were in Germany. He even knew approximately where. Approximately. And that was the problem. He'd been searching fruitlessly for years. Finally, the key to locating the weapons had been found, right here in Munich, and he was going to get his hands on it. That would be the first step in securing what the madman Saddam should never have moved out of his country. Worthy followers of Allah had identified the perfect tool for recovering the item. An American infidel who deceived Muslims into abandoning their faith. She lived in the heart of Old Town, an area crowded on a normal day. Right now, it was overrun with tourists, thanks to the Christmas market that had been set up in the square. Restaurants and stores filled the street level of the woman's apartment building. The nearest, a bakery packed with customers. The scents of coffee and baking bread flavored the frigid air. Sandwiched between the bakery and a souvenir shop, a locked door led to apartments on the upper floors. Hassan made it through the crush of people and leaned against the wall beside the door. He forced a contented expression, as if gazing at the scene gave him pleasure. He only had to wait a few moments before somebody exited the building. The older man caught his eye and held the door open. Hassan smiled as he grabbed it. Danke. Bitte schön. The fool dove into the crowd. Hassan moved inside, shutting out the cacophony and the chill that reached beyond his wool coat and leather gloves. Like so many things in the West, this building was a facade. The exterior had been designed to look old, but inside it was obvious that the structure was much newer than it seemed. Even their architecture deceived. In Iraq, the birthplace of the world, there was no need to pretend there was history. It was evident in every corner of the nation. He found a stairwell and climbed 2 flights, checking the corners for cameras. There were none. He walked to the proper door and knocked. No answer. He'd been told the woman had traveled to America. He hoped his source had gotten that information correct. Still wearing his gloves, Hassan dropped his messenger bag beside the door and crouched to pick the lock. Locks, plural. The first was easy, but the deadbolt proved less so. He forced patience, thanking Allah that nobody came. It took far longer than it should have, but finally, the deadbolt disengaged, one hand hovering over the pistol he'd secured in case the intelligence about her absence was wrong. Hassan twisted the doorknob and stepped into a typical European apartment. The living area was mostly colorless, except for a giant painting hanging on one wall. It depicted a village square filled with people. Snow-capped mountains rose in the distance. Hassan studied the painting until he found himself getting lost in it. The infidel had taste. The air was stale and silent. She wasn't here. He carried his messenger bag from the hallway and began. The main room, kitchen, dining table, and living area was tidy if bland. He flipped through magazines on the coffee table. Not fashion, but decorator, which surprised him. There was no desk, but he searched a pile of papers on her kitchen counter. Evidently, she paid her bills on time and kept her debts low, unusual for an American. The bathroom was white and shiny. The spare bedroom held an art studio, and he spent a few moments in there, picking among the canvases. Not only did the infidel have taste, but she had talent. Too bad she wasted it, like she wasted her life. He spent more time in her bedroom, getting to know this enemy to better predict her movements and manipulate her tastes, her habits, her idols, money, beauty, self. Typical Western Christian. clothed in deceit and pouring out her life to deceive others. He went through her bureau drawers and finally found what he was searching for lying atop silky and shameful underthings. She'd barely tried to conceal it, the little fool. She would be the first victim in Hassan's operation. The clue to Saddam's weapons lay in Munich. Sophie Chapman would help him get it, whether she wanted to or not.
I hope you've enjoyed this sneak peek of Finding You, written by Robin Patchen, narrated by Brian, Matilda, and Daniel. Look for Chapter 2 in this playlist, and then check back soon for the entire audiobook. Meanwhile, don't miss the first 2 books in the Right Heroes of Maine series, both of which are available in audio on YouTube at Robin Patchen Audio.